The only thing worse than addressing problems that don't exist is creating new problems to address these fake problems that don't exist. And from a cybersecurity standpoint, this is exactly what I'm seeing with the onslaught of new AI browsers. And this is all part of a bigger problem, a problem that I like to describe as suicidal solutionism. So let's dive into what it is that these AI browsers are doing, the problems they're creating, and what we can expect from these new developments in AI in terms of cybersecurity, investment, and what it means for the broader market. Hi, and welcome back to the Cyber Canvas. I'm your host, Nick Morpus, and today I want to talk about AI browsers, namely the security problems that are being created by them and the underlying, motivations for creating a lot of these browsers and whether or not they're even useful in your day-to-day life. And just as a disclaimer, I am not against AI, and I do realize that a lot of my content lately has kind of poo-pooed on a lot of the different AI developments that have come out lately, namely the security problems that they have introduced. See, I'm not some Luddite who doesn't like technological developments. Obviously, I work in tech. I've worked in tech for the better part of a decade, and I've always had a passion for technology. However, it does seem that the technology that is being created today is different than that of the past. And I do realize that every single time there is a new technological development, there will always be the naysayers out there who will tell you that this or that thing is not useful or won't be important in the future. That's not what this is about. Instead, I want to address a lot of the concerns, specifically the cybersecurity concerns that AI browsers are introducing and the specific mindset that is bringing about these different solutions in the market. And at the beginning of the video, I alluded to a term that I coined that I'm just going to roll with until something better comes around. Someone might have already come up with something better. But I call this suicidal solutionism, or creating harmful solutions to problems that just don't exist. And I'm sorry, but in the great scheme of things, I see AI browsers as a solution to a problem that simply doesn't exist. And it's creating a whole lot more downsides than there are upsides, at least in the cybersecurity realm. Now, to steelman the position of the AI browser, the use case essentially is that these AI browsers are meant to create more efficiencies when doing certain operations on the internet, such as booking travel or buying something or researching a project. However, this assumes that most people are looking to operationalize and create efficiencies in a lot of these things in ways that are actually not needed. See, most of the time, people spend a lot of their time on the internet in what is known as idle time, or just mindlessly browsing the internet. They don't know exactly what it is that they're looking for. They don't know what it is they want to do, but they're browsing nonetheless. Browsers and searching the internet is not necessarily a straightforward path. Sometimes you don't even know what you don't know, and creating a lot of these efficiencies or supposed efficiencies in searches and research and whatever it is you're trying to do is trying to operationalize and create efficiencies where it's actually not needed. In fact, actually could inhibit a lot of that growth or discovery that people are really looking for when they're browsing the internet. What really got me thinking about this issue was actually a clip from a show that I'm a huge fan of. I am a big fan of Silicon Valley. It was a great show on HBO, a good comedy show on HBO made by Mike Judge. And they addressed this issue of solutionism, and I couldn't help but be reminded of AI browsers.
This must be the new fridge.
You like this? Look, it has a screen so you can see all the food that's inside.
Mm-hmm. Kind of like that one.
This one has an app so you can actually watch the food on your phone.
All it needs to do is keep my beer cold.
Ah, there we go.
It's bad enough it has to talk. Does it need fake vocal tics like,
Well, it just makes it sound more human.
Humans are This thing is addressing problems that don't exist. It's solutionism at its worst.
While I don't share the character Guilfoyle's assessment of humans, he is right that we are creating solutions to problems that don't exist as far as AI browsers are concerned. Think about when you're on YouTube and you have found some very interesting video that you never thought you would find before. You didn't find it because you were inputting searches into a prompt. Sometimes you have, but a lot of times you might find something that you never thought you might actually be interested in because you were browsing. You were not looking for some efficient, operationalized, or streamlined process of question and answer. And this is kind of part of the problem with AI browsers, is that it is trying to solve some kind of efficiency problem with browsers that simply doesn't exist, and probably creates additional problems in terms of learning new information. It's just like when you watch competitive fencing and you see people just lunging at each other, hoping to get the first poke on somebody, rather than the actual back and forth and weaving and bobbing. I've never done fencing myself, but when you watch it at a more fun level, you'll see a lot of parrying and blocking and dodging. However, when you watch it on a competitive level, you'll see them just lunging at each other, trying to get the first poke in a matter of like fractions of a second. You see this with video games, where people try to find the most efficient way to be the best at the video game, but it takes all the fun out of it. It takes the human experience out of all of it. This human experience that allows us to learn, allows us to grow, allows us to understand and contextualize the world around us. By creating all these efficiencies and solutions to problems that don't exist, we eliminate a lot of this human experience that we rely upon to grow as people. Who would have thought that the show today was going to get philosophical and ethical? Oh boy. I swear, it's medicinal. I've come to realize that the reason I've worked in marketing for so long, or at least, product marketing and everything, is because I know it works on me. Because, look at how pretty that is. It tastes pretty good too. Very smooth. All right, well, enough of me getting on my soapbox and talking about the certain philosophical or ethical concerns as far as humans are concerned with AI browsers. Instead, I want to talk about the cybersecurity costs that are now created by AI browsers, and the problems that they're creating are massive. See, what makes this worse is that AI browsers, as I said before, are not really solving a problem. And so when they're creating more problems than they solve, well, there really is no good justification for them to exist right now. You see, the way I see it, all these introductions of new browsers, such as ChatGPT's Atlas, Perplexity's Comet, Dia, Sigma, integrations like Copilot on Microsoft Edge, Google's Gemini, Aria AI on Opera, all these things are doing is expanding the threat surface by creating all these new openings in existing threat vectors, such as prompt injections. These prompt injections are just hidden in web page text, exploiting AI summaries or other prompt functions as you use an AI browser to try and come up with answers or certain functions that you want them to perform. This can be hidden in white text in a page, and this white text in a page is creating new commands for the AI to operate on rather than just the prompt that you're inputting. You see, the problem is the model is relying on your input and the pages that it analyzes, and it can't meaningfully distinguish between trusted and untrusted inputs. And the thing is, these are problems that already exist. Prompt injections are already an issue, and now all we're doing is expanding them out into browsers, something that everybody uses and is a lot harder to control for companies that are trying to protect their information, protect their employees from different types of breaches. AI browsers also open the door to user interface mimicry of agent side panels that you find in specific browsers. These extensions in browsers add in these side panels that will help try to answer your questions. These are where you add in your prompts and it spits out information that you need. The problem comes along when hackers are actually looking to spoof a lot of these. And if you don't have a discerning eye and you can't really tell the difference between a fake agentic AI panel and the real one, you'll easily enter in sensitive information, credentials, or whatever it is that the AI is trying to gather from you, or the hacker is trying to gather from you. And it can replicate these specific side panels and manipulate you into navigating to malicious websites, giving it sensitive information, running system commands that could give you access to a system. These problems are new problems created by agentic AI or just AI browsers in general. And there isn't a whole lot of upside that a regular browser couldn't provide. You're shaving off nanoseconds and creating all new security problems. And what makes this even worse when we're talking about the AI browsers in terms of attacks, A lot of phishing attacks are stopped by human reluctance, the understanding that they know that potentially someone is trying to steal information from them, something is trying to manipulate them. However, AI does not have that discerning power. It can't really understand the certain contexts that it needs in order to stop phishing attacks. It may be able to block certain types of attacks if it is taught in a certain way. However, if a phishing attack is already in mid-execution, it's not going to really understand or scratch its head and say, oh my gosh, wow, I'm actually being breached right now, or I'm being manipulated to provide information that I'm not supposed to provide. You are actually creating new efficiencies and operationalizing hacking for the hackers, making it much easier for them to steal your data or manipulate your users or your customers or even your employees that are using these browsers to supply them with sensitive information. Now, of course, there are ways to secure these AI browsers in a way that prevents certain information from leaking. You can institute zero trust, least privilege access to AI prompts, making sure that there are guardrails on what it is that these things can access and when they can access it and who can access it and in what context, what time, those kinds of things can be instituted. You can also create new input vetting. You can create all kinds of guardrails for these AI browsers. However, when we're talking about the benefits that these browsers actually create, all of this effort that's going to have to be put towards security is going to be much bigger than the benefits that these AI browsers are actually providing. And let's be honest, I'm not here to scream into the void and say, oh my gosh, we need to do away with AI browsers, because honestly, the Pandora's box is already open. We are moving forward in our AI development, and this is just the latest iteration of it. What I really am trying to tackle here is how we think about how we develop AI in the future and for what purpose. Because from the way I see it, when we're talking about the different valuations of AI companies and the justifications for all these different investments and all this compute power, I see AI browsers personally as just another example of trying to justify a lot of investment with new use cases that they're hoping are going to actually stick in the major markets. I know I'm not the first one to report on this. This is becoming a major topic of concern when it comes to AI investment. But it's being coined as the $600 billion question. It's looking like by 2030 that these AI-related revenues are going to have to reach $2 trillion in order to justify all these massive expenditures into AI. And so you have a lot of companies like Google, Microsoft, OpenAI, all of them are throwing money at this, and there's a hope that this is going to turn an actual profit in the future. And anytime this gets called into question, a lot of these companies come up with some new use case or some new product that is actually supposed to solve this problem. Or perhaps not even solve this problem. Instead, what it is, it's supposed to justify its own existence. If we're spending all this money on compute power, then it needs to be able to be used in order to be profitable. If you're building all of this infrastructure and compute power and nobody is using it, you're wasting money. That is the bottom line. And I contend this is why Sora 2 by OpenAI was released, even though who really needed an AI slop generator that can do exactly what TikTok and Instagram and every other social media company can do for free? Why would you generate content that costs tons of money to generate and requires tons of compute power to generate when you can get it all for free? I see AI browsers as an extension of this problem. You see, they're looking to inject AI into every living thing, or at least everything in the tech space and even the non-tech space, in order to justify all of this expenditure in AI compute power investment. And this is why I'm calling it suicidal solutionism. They're coming up with solutions to problems that don't exist. And yet, at the same time, they're creating all new cybersecurity threat vectors that a lot of these companies are just not equipped to handle. Customers are not ready for them, and users are not ready for them. All of your employees are not ready for them. And a lot of cybersecurity companies are just trying to catch up to all these new threat vectors that are coming about. Traditional DLP can't handle this problem. You need very contextual data and information and ability to intervene before a problem happens. And the use of AI browsers is so quick. All of these prompts are generated so fast, and there's all new ways to breach them every second. So what's the solution? Well, One, try to find new investments in cybersecurity to deal with this problem. Also, probably try to put controls or at least try to educate employees and different users about the potential threats of specific AI browsers, especially when they are working on company networks or they're using company devices. In the broader scheme of things, I think we need to put a little more scrutiny on what it is that a lot of these companies are churning out, these AI companies, because honestly, the way I see it is that if we continue to allow or reward companies with higher and higher and higher valuations by just churning out what I like to consider, at least in this case, AI slop, if we continue to reward them for this, they're going to continue to churn out whatever it is they can in order to keep the train moving. If they're not churning out, products every 5 seconds, then they believe that their valuations are going to drop, or that people are going to start realizing that maybe the promise of AI isn't as big as they said it was. And again, I'm no Luddite. I'm not here to say that there is no use for AI or there's no future for AI. I'm not like somebody in the 90s trying to say that the internet will be no more consequential than the fax machine. No, instead, what I am preaching is more of a, not necessarily cautious, but a more measured approach as we embrace this AI future. We need to be a lot more careful about what it is that we take on, what it is that we produce, and a lot more consideration for some of the security concerns and just social concerns in general as we produce all of these new AI products. I don't want this show to be all about negativity. And to be honest, when we're dealing in the world of cybersecurity, it's kind of hard not to fall down the rabbit hole of cynicism and negativity simply because, I'm dealing in an industry that has to do with stopping bad things from happening. And this requires a certain realist point of view as far as new technological developments are concerned. But what do you think? Do you think there's a justification for AI browsers? Are you concerned at all about the cybersecurity concerns that AI browsers present? Or, the all-important question, is Sam Altman a human being or is he a cyborg? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments down below. Please leave all your thoughts. I definitely read all of them as you leave them, and I would love to get into the back and forth discussions. Also, like and subscribe if you're on YouTube, and follow me on LinkedIn if you'd like to hear more of my thoughts on these different topics. Well, I'm Nick Morpus with the Cyber Canvas, and I'll see you on the next one.